You know, in any place where heavy stuff gets moved around, there's a really important set of rules that stand between things going smoothly and a major accident. So today, we're going to lift the lid on those rules, which are known as LOLER.
I mean, think about it for a second. It's a simple question, right? But the answer can literally be the difference between life and death. When you see a massive crane lifting tons of steel way up high, what is really stopping that load from just falling? It's not just about the strength of the chain. It's an entire system.
And yeah, the answer isn't just a big, powerful machine. It's a whole framework that's designed to keep people safe. And we can actually break this whole system down into 3 really simple pillars to remember: having the right gear, having the right plan, and doing the right checks. This framework, well, it's the heart of everything we're talking about today.
Now, this safety framework, it's not just a good suggestion, it's the law. So let's get into the details of LOLER, the regulations that are designed to make every single lift a safe one. Okay, so here's the official bit. LOLER stands for the Lifting Operations and Lifting Equipment Regulations 1998. And what they do is put very clear responsibilities on pretty much everyone involved, from the company that owns the crane to the person actually operating it. If you own it, operate it, or just have control over it, LOLER applies to you. Simple as that.
So what counts as lifting equipment? Well, the definition is actually pretty broad. It's any piece of equipment you use at work to lift or lower stuff. And importantly, that also includes all the little bits and pieces that help support it. Things like chains, slings, and even the bolts holding it down. The load itself can be just about anything, from a crate of materials to a person.
But here's where it gets specific. LOLER applies to things like overhead cranes, forklifts, and even patient hoists. But it doesn't apply to things like escalators or those little pallet trucks that just lift things an inch off the ground. The key difference here is the risk. If a load could fall from a height and hurt someone, that's when LOLER kicks in.
All right, let's dive into our first pillar, the right gear. This is all about the physical hardware itself. Before you even think about lifting anything, the equipment has to be totally up to the job. LOLER boils it down to 3 fundamental rules for the gear. First, it's got to be strong and stable enough for whatever you're trying to lift. That's a no-brainer. Second, it has to be set up in a way that minimizes any risk of the machine or its load hitting someone. And third, you have to be able to see exactly what it's capable of. No guesswork allowed. And that brings us to something you've probably seen 100 times, the safe working load, or SWL. Every single piece of lifting equipment has to be clearly marked with this number, the absolute maximum weight it can safely lift. And if that maximum weight changes depending on how the equipment is set up, like the angle of a crane's arm, that information has to be crystal clear for the operator too.
This need for clarity extends to a really life-saving detail. If a piece of equipment looks like it could lift a person, but it's not actually designed for that, like say a forklift with a pallet on it, it must have a clear sign on it that says so. It's amazing, really. A simple sticker can prevent a fatal mistake. Okay, so you've got the right gear. Check. But that's only one part of the puzzle, right? Let's move on to our second pillar, the right plan. This is where we shift focus from the machine to the people, the process, the supervision, the whole shebang.
According to Regulation 8 of LOLER, every single lifting operation, no exceptions, has to follow these 3 steps. It has to be properly planned by a competent person, it has to be appropriately supervised, and then it has to be carried out in a safe way. And that goes for everything, whether you're lifting a car engine or just a heavy box.
So, what does a good plan even look like? Well, the person planning it has to think like a detective, trying to spot every possible risk. Can the operators see everything they need to? Is the load attached properly? Are there any hidden dangers, like overhead power lines? And maybe the most important question of all, how do we make absolutely sure no one is working under that suspended load? That's the gold standard.
So we have the right gear and we have the right plan. That brings us to our third and final pillar, the one that makes sure everything stays safe over the long haul, the right checks. This is all about constant, ongoing verification.
Now, the cornerstone of this pillar is something called a thorough examination. This is not just a quick look over. It's a systematic, super detailed inspection by a competent person who is looking for any little defect that could become a big danger. Think of it like a regular, in-depth health check for the equipment.
So how often do these checks need to happen? LOLER is really specific about this. A check is needed before it's ever used for the first time, and again after it's installed somewhere new. Then, for any gear that lifts people or for accessories like slings and chains, it's every 6 months. For all other lifting equipment, it's once every year. And, this is crucial, An extra check is required if anything exceptional happens, like it gets damaged or has a major repair.
Now, we've used that term competent person a lot. What does that actually mean? Well, the official guidance is clear. It's someone who has the right mix of hands-on and book-smart knowledge, plus the experience to actually spot defects and weaknesses, and just as importantly, to understand how serious those problems are.
But the process doesn't stop with the inspection. A written report has to be made every single time, and records have to be kept. And here's where the system really has some bite. If the inspector finds a problem that poses an imminent risk of serious injury, they are legally required to tell the employer and the health and safety executive. The equipment is taken out of service immediately, and the authorities are looped in. It's a full stop.
Okay, so let's pull all of this together. LOLER isn't just a bunch of boring rules and paperwork. It's a really robust system that's designed to make sure every single lift, from the simplest to the most complex, gets done safely.
And it really all comes back to those 3 simple pillars. First, the right gear, making sure it's strong, stable, and clearly marked. Second, the right plan, making sure every lift is planned out, supervised, and done safely. And third, the right checks, guaranteeing that the equipment is examined regularly and thoroughly to catch problems before they turn into tragedies.
Ultimately, what LOLER teaches us is that a safe lift is never an accident. It's planned, it's not lucky. And that kind of leaves us with one last question to think about. Is your workplace leaving safety to chance?